Welcome back to Java lesson. In this session, we will talk about the anonymous block or a block with no name. So first of all, what's block? Block is a place where we can do some operations or we can add some statements to execute. It starts with opening brace and ends with closing brace. We have used it several times in our program. There are 4 types of block is possible in Java programming. The first one is static block, anonymous block, constructor, and method. Constructor is already discussed in the previous video session and the link is given on the screen for your easy reference. Anonymous block means a block without any name. Its purpose is to initialize the data member, so it's also known as instance initializer. It runs automatically when we invoke the constructor to create an object. Let us see by an example. Let us see a simple code. First, create a Java file. Yes, to create a Java file. Now I am creating a class with opening closing brace. Now suppose we have a data member as x. Public static void main method to see the result. Suppose creating object of this class and displaying the value of x. So now let's compile it. And now check the value by executing this program. So it gives a 0, that we have already seen in a previous video, that if there is no constructor given in a class, there will be a default constructor and the default constructor will initialize the data member x with its default value according to the data type, and since it is int, so it is giving you the value 0. But let us add one no name block or anonymous block, and suppose I give some value to it. So now our data member has initialized with the value 10, but in a block which has no name, a block with no name, that is anonymous. So let us check it, what will happen. First of all, compile the program, then execute, and we see that here is a 10. So from where this 10 comes? Obviously there is a default constructor given in here, and this anonymous block is executed when that default constructor is called from here. That means whenever we call a constructor, it will first call the anonymous block and then invoke the constructor, and thus the value x we are watching here on the result. So suppose we add a statement from anonymous and plus the value of x. Let us see after compilation what will happen. So from anonymous, the initial value is 0, and then we have assigned 10 to this x variable. So from here we see the value 10. So whenever we will call a constructor, it will first invoke the anonymous block and then call the constructor, and hence the data member is initialized with the help of an anonymous block. So it is an instance initializer block or an anonymous block. Let us see by adding one constructor. Now let us add one constructor. Here, since we have not added any constructor, so there must be a default constructor, and if you wish to see, then just use Java P to see the inner structure after compilation. So we see here a constructor given by the compiler. This is default constructor. Now we are adding one constructor from ourselves. Suppose there is no statement in anonymous block. So what will happen now? Do compile and execute. Once again we have 0 value because x is assigned with a default value here. Now suppose we assign a value in constructor as x is equal to 10. Save. Once again compile and once again execute. So we are watching here the value 10 as the value from a.x is displayed. Now let us print a statement in anonymous block. So what will be the value of x here? I'm just adding anonym. Just to see that what the value is displaying from anonymous block. Save. Let us compile and once again execute. So what happened from constructor? Even x is having no value in anonymous block. However, we are adding a value in constructor. This means that when we invoke this constructor, first of all, this anonymous block is executed, and at that time the x is initialized with the default value 0. So the system.out.println gives us the value 0, and then the constructor is executed and the x is assigned with the 10 value, and so here we see the result 10, isn't it? So now it's important to understand that whatever we change in constructor, it will not reflect in anonymous block. The value assigned in constructor will not reflect in anonymous block. So anonymous block is only used to initialize the value of data member, and if the data member is changed after the anonymous block execution, it will not reflect in here because it is executed before the execution of constructor. From this example, we get that the anonymous block is executed just before the execution of constructor. So what will happen if we add more constructor? Now set a value, default value for x in anonymous block, and add one more constructor with a parameter, and initialize x is equal to I, and in this case Now let us add one statement. So from one arg, x will be displayed before the assignment of x is equal to I, and after the assignment of x is equal to I, it will display from one arg 2 and the value of x. So if this constructor is called, it will display from no arg and with the value of x. And if parameterized constructor is called, before this assignment what is the value of x, and after this assignment what is the value of x, we will see here. So let us create an object a1 for no augmented constructor and one more object with value 20 as a parameter. Now display a1.x. No need to display because we have already added the print statement in constructor. So just create an object and see the result. Java C abc.java. There is missing of semicolon here. Let us clear the screen. Java C abc.java, and now execute Java abc, and here we see no arg10. From where this 10 comes? From the anonymous block. So when we call this constructor, the anonymous block is executed and x becomes 10, and this 10 is displayed from here. And when we pass 20 with this constructor is called, but before invocation of this constructor, once again anonymous block is called and x becomes 10 at beginning. So before assignment the value shows 10, and after x is equal to y the value shows 20, isn't it? So we can now summarize that the statement of anonymous block is prepended in each constructor. That means this x is equal to 10 is added here, and here. That means the anonymous block is prepended in each constructor, and hence whatever constructor we will call, first of all the statement of anonymous block will be executed, and then the further statements of the constructor will be executed. So we see here that the anonymous block is executed before the execution of constructor, and we can say that the anonymous block is prepended in each constructor. So let us see what will happen when we access a data in anonymous block. Let us see all with a different example. I am changing the class with a class rectangle with two data member int l, b for length and breadth, and now add two constructor, one with no argumented and one with a two argumented. Suppose we have a method area and there is a print statement to display the area. Now let us add one main method and let's assign default 10 and 20 as length and breadth value, and here length is equal to x and breadth is equal to y. Now add one anonymous block and object using both the constructor. One is with a no-argumented constructor and another one with parameterized constructor. I am giving it 30 and 42 values for length and breadth. Now we can see the area calculated here like this. Let us check this program without having concept of anonymous block. We have a rectangle class, and since the rectangle class has a main method, so we will execute this by using rectangle, and we have 200 and 1200 for both the constructors. 130 into 40 as the area, and another one for 10 into 20 for the no argumented constructors object. R1 is displaying the value 200 and R2 is displaying the value 1200. Now let us think what will happen if we will call the area method from the constructor. And just remove the R1.area and R2.area. So whenever we will invoke the constructor will initialize the data member and call the area method. And similarly, when this constructor is invoked, the data member will be initialized and the area method will be invoked. So let us check it, compile and execute. So once again we have the same result, and we do not need explicitly to call the area method because already we have called the area method from the constructor. So suppose area method is a common statement for both the constructors. So can we comment it out and add this area method in anonymous block? Will it be called? Yes, this method will be called. But the problem we will see in the execution, that both the area method will display the value 0. Why it becomes? Because when we invoke the constructor, first it will call the anonymous block, and in this time the length and breadth are having value 0. So the area becomes 0, and then the constructor is invoked and length and breadth is initialized. So before initialization the area method is invoked. That is why we get the value 0 in both the cases of constructor. So it should be take care that if we are using anonymous block, then there should not be any code in the anonymous block which is directly or indirectly using a data member. It should take care that if we are using some statement in anonymous block, that statement or that method should not use any data member, otherwise it will always show the default value given to the data member, and in this case there is no value we have assigned, so the default value is 0. Assigned the value to length and breadth in constructor, so the default value of length and breadth is 0, so the area also displays the value 0. However, we can add like this. It is good because it is just a statement which shows that an object is created. So whenever we will call a constructor, the anonymous block will show that an object is created, and then the constructor will be involved. So remove the comment from constructor and let us see what happened. First, this constructor is called. This constructor invokes the anonymous block which says one object is created, and then this constructor is called. So length and breadth is initialized, and area method displays the value of area according to the length and breadth values. And similarly, when this constructor is called, once again the anonymous block is executed which says that one object is created, and then this constructor is called, the data member initialized, and then area method is displaying the value according to the data stored in the length and breadth. In this example, we see that only initializing a data is safe in anonymous block, but if we are adding some statement, it should avoid to access any data member. Let us see an example with using an static data in anonymous block. However, if we have a static member to count the number of objects, like static int count is equal to 0 semicolon, and then add an anonymous and add a statement in anonymous block as count plus plus, then we can say that number of object created is plus count. So this will display, since this is a static member and this is not dependent on object, this is a class variable, so this count will each time incremented when object is created, and so it will display the number of objects. Let us see this by execution. Here number of object created is 1, and the first area is 200, number of object created is 2, and the area is 1200. So we can use a static data member in anonymous block, but we cannot use a data member or instance member in anonymous block. We can just initialize with the help of anonymous block. Take care when using anonymous block. We should not add any statement that use data member, or we should not call any method that directly or indirectly use data member.